Hello everyone, welcome. This is SharePoint Power Hour. This is a show that we do every Wednesday at 11 Central. I'm Laura Rogers and this is my team of SharePoint consultants at Rackspace Hosting. Power Hour is all about things that you can do in SharePoint and Office 365 without having to do any programming or do anything necessarily on the server or anything with code. We do most of pretty much everything we cover using pretty much out-of-the-box stuff. We have discussions about different topics. We do demos. Mostly me, when I do demos, I just make it up as I go. So today's topic is going to be Office integration, and I'm going to be doing the demo. And before I get started, a couple of quick things. We use a Google Hangout to stream this live, and it streams straight to YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can actually click the little link in there that goes to the Google Hangout, and when you go to the Google Hangout, that's where the Q&A is. So the Q&A is going to allow you to interact with us as we go. So you can ask us questions live, we can discuss things, we can get ideas, input. That's the whole point of doing it live, and makes it fun. So the little Q&A app in the Google Hangout is, by default, it's going to show you a little app on the right called Showcase, which shows all the links that we've shared, and in this episode there are a whole bunch of them. But you can use a little picture of the little squares towards the top right in the Google Hangout to flip between apps, and so it's the other app is the Q&A. So before I get started, we'll go ahead and get everybody to introduce themselves. Let's see, the order y'all are in on my screen is Corey, then Kevin, then Ryan, then Tanya.
All right. For some reason, I always end up being first, probably because I'm the first one to join this thing. So I'm Corey. I've been at Rackspace now for a little while. I do out-of-the-box workflows, dashboards, web parts, all that stuff. InfoPath. I still like playing with InfoPath. I'm old school. What can I say? So, yeah.
Hello, I'm Kevin Hughes. I'm the SharePoint architect here at Rackspace on Laura's team that been with Rackspace a little over a year now, based out of Kansas City. And my role here is to work with our customers to figure out what in the world they need in SharePoint, and then figure out how in the world we're going to deliver it, and work with the rest of our team to figure out how in the world we're going to make it happen. So SharePoint is my entire world, apparently. So anyway, next.
Hi everyone, I'm Ryan Keller. I am the branding guy on the SharePoint team here. So that means I spend my days making SharePoint look pretty. I have been working with SharePoint for like 8 years now, I think, and about 4 of those years have been doing branding almost exclusively. I'm based out of northern Colorado, where it is so ridiculously windy today that by this afternoon my house just might be in Kevin's backyard. So maybe I'll see you later, Kevin.
Hi, I'm Tanya Kaiser. I am the SharePoint Program Manager for our internal SharePoint environments at Rackspace. I'm actually based at our headquarters in San Antonio, not at our headquarters today. I'm working from home. A lot of the stuff that I deal with is the same things we talk about on Power Hour, all out-of-the-box solutions. I'm also the person who kind of interacts with my customers who are fellow Rackers and do basic end-user training and all those sorts of things. So my whole day is focused around SharePoint.
Okay, thanks everybody. Back to me. I'm Laura Rogers, Microsoft MVP. Been doing SharePoint about 10, 12 years. I don't know. So not even going to get into that. All right, so a few years ago, I don't know if any of you have this book, Professional SharePoint 2010 Administration. I wrote a couple of, Todd and Shane wrote this. I wrote a couple of chapters in it, and the one that I'm going to talk about today it's the integration SharePoint with SharePoint and Office. Now, some stuff has changed since 2010. I'm not going to be demoing 2010, but a lot of the stuff I do presentations on and stuff, I wrote the book about it. That was a fun chapter to write, actually. I kind of dug in, and found all kinds of neat little things buried here and there with Office integration. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and go through. I've got, of course, as usual, a very rough PowerPoint, and I grabbed some slides from my old 2010 integration presentation that some of them are have 2010 screenshots on them. But I'm going to be doing demos in 2013. I would have liked to see what's new in 2016, but practically, I just figured most people are on Office 2013 right now, and I might as well just show you what's in there, and probably a lot of the stuff, hopefully a lot of stuff still in 2016. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. And we're keeping an eye on the Q&A app as I do this. So share. Okay. You guys can see my slides now? All
Yep.
right. Cool. SharePoint and Office 2013 integration, me. So we're going to talk about just the general idea. There's some sync with Outlook. There are various products that have various different integration points with SharePoint that you might learn one or two new ones that you didn't know about today. The first thing that I wanted to point out here, and this link here, I did put it in the little showcase app to share with y'all, is that it really helps to go into Internet Explorer and do some certain settings in there that will make it so that it passes your credentials over to not only this SharePoint, but it applies to all of your Office apps that you use. So if you do those steps, it's just basically a couple of different things you have to do in your IE settings. If you do those, then you won't have to worry about all these authentication prompts all the time when you open a Word document from SharePoint or a spreadsheet or all these different things that make it annoying for people when it comes to Office integration with SharePoint. So just do that, and your whole experience will be much smoother. Lori and I did a previous Power Hour that I put a link to that in the showcase as well, where we talked about from the admin perspective how to do a lot of this stuff, how to do that setting, how to do a lot of these different Office things. This presentation is not going to be about the admin point of view because we kind of already covered that. This is going to be about the end user point of view. This is going to be things that your end users can do to make their lives easier, to be able to save things in SharePoint and work in SharePoint and Office seamlessly. So the first thing, you guys, this is probably a pretty common thing, is that you can synchronize certain types of lists with SharePoint to make it so that you can actually work on those whether or not you're connected to SharePoint. So for example, you can have a contacts list, calendar, task list in SharePoint, even a discussion board, and work in that list directly. Oh, Tiny, can you mute yourself? And work in that list directly in Outlook without even having to go to SharePoint. So I'll just show you, I'll share my screen real quick and show you a couple of these things. I've got a calendar here, and I can go to the calendar tab up here and just click connect to Outlook. And it's going to prompt me. It's going to say, you know, do you trust this? Blah, blah, blah. Sure, yes, I trust it. So now it's got in Outlook, of course, that's dangerous showing you my Outlook. Now I've got this team site calendar next to my own calendar. And I'm going to go, go to the team site and add a new appointment in there and say test event and SharePoint. Look, it's got some special buttons in here too. I can even copy this to my own, that's not connecting them, but it's going to, I would make a copy of this event to my own personal calendar because right now I'm creating it in SharePoint. I could make this, I have Skype for Business integrated with with Outlook, and I could make it a Skype meeting, which would put a little link in there. I can't send this to attendees if I'm creating it in SharePoint, but anybody who's set up alerts maybe in that calendar is going to receive an alert. And look, I just got a pop-up saying that, of course, it's about to happen now. remind me to go to it. So I've noticed that if I create an event in Outlook that's on a SharePoint calendar, it will give me reminder pop-ups, but if I create it directly in SharePoint, it won't, which is odd. It's not going to give anybody else a reminder, which is one of those, there are just some clunky things about this. So I'm here to just kind of point out what it does and doesn't do. So I can also do, of course, with multiple calendars in here, you can do overlays. So I could see this other calendar, on top of my own calendar. That's just Outlook functionality. All right, so I went ahead and let's see. I created that as a test event. So let me go ahead and maybe refresh this. I'll change it over to, yeah. So I created that in Outlook, and now it's in SharePoint. So that's, connecting Outlook to SharePoint. I can also, just other lists, different types of lists have export to Excel and open with access as well, and that's not just for calendars. Another thing with tasks, what I noticed some weirdness with tasks. So with contacts, you can do pretty much exactly the same thing I just showed you with the calendar. You can connect it to Outlook, and it looks just like an Outlook list of contacts. It makes it a lot prettier for printing. So people, have asked me in the past, like, how can I print out my SharePoint calendar and make it look a little nicer, or my contacts list to make it look a little more organized, as opposed to printing the browser page. You could just go connect it to Outlook and then use the nice little pretty print functionality in Outlook, which makes it look really nice and like a full calendar, and it gives you a lot of settings in there, and you're not printing a browser screen. So just an idea there. I've noticed something weird and funky with tasks. So let's see, what task list do I have in here? Which one of these are tasks? Now, I've noticed some funkiness in SharePoint 2013 with tasks. So like when I create, I'm just going to go create a new task list and show you what I'm talking about. I'll say tasks. And anytime I manually, let's see, SP 2013 tasks. SharePoint 2013 task lists are very cool, but there are a couple of weird things and a couple of things, and this has to do with Office integration that are a little different about them. So this is my SharePoint 2013 task list that I just created. They're very pretty. They're, you've got these pretty little columns down the left side that let you click a checkbox to say when you've done one of them. It's got the pretty little timeline, and it's all very nice looking. But you guys might have noticed that, first of all, you might have noticed in 2010 that you were able to send email when ownership is assigned, and you might have noticed that sometimes you don't get this in 2013. So the extra step that I had to take on this site was, as soon as I created a 2010 out-of-the-box workflow in this site, when I did that, it's like it turned on some magical hidden setting somewhere that made it so that now all of a sudden the task list, the 2010 task list that it might put in there that's got like this weird different format, and any further lists are going to have this send email when ownership is assigned. Now, this could very well have been fixed in Office 365, but it's definitely the case in on-premises as to where you're not going to see this sometimes. Does that ring a bell? Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Tanya, I know you've seen this, right? So, but also along with that, I've noticed that when I click to connect to Outlook in my 2013 on-premises, so this is Office 365 right now, I got an error when I tried to connect my 2013 on-premises task list to Outlook, saying that the Exchange server wasn't set up correctly. Well, it was just this weird error. So then I discovered that if I created created a 2010 workflow, out-of-the-box workflow, just somewhere on my site and published it, then all of a sudden I had this task list that's like this weird, it looks like the old type of task list like this one. See, it doesn't have like the pretty timeline and all that stuff. I have this different type of task list that does let me connect it to Outlook. So maybe that doesn't ring a bell. Has anybody seen that happen? But that's kind of how I got around it, was by putting a 2010 workflow somewhere on the site and just as soon as you publish it, it creates a task list it's got some kind of different functionality in it. All right, so then I can actually connect the task list to Outlook, and then I can interact with it just like the calendar from within Outlook. Another thing that you sometimes might see, that I've seen in task list, is open with project, and I've seen open in Visio too before. Open in Visio might be something that was in 2010 and they removed, but you may notice open in Visio if you have Visio on your computer. But I can actually, if I have Microsoft Project on my computer, I can open this SharePoint task list with project. I'm not sure if I have it. I'm not even necessarily going to try that right now, but these are additional integration points that you have. I'm going to go ahead and show you what a discussion board looks like in here. So I'll go ahead and just do a new discussion, and then I'll sync it with Outlook and show you some coolness. Okay. I'm not very creative, am I? All right. So that is my conversation. Now I can link this discussion list to Outlook as well. Connect it to Outlook. Are you sure? Yes. And then, so now I've connected it and I've got this discussion in Outlook. Cool. So what can I do in here? I can actually interact with this and actually hold the whole conversation in here. I can click post. So someone else, of course, can open this and click post reply. Instead of just using the regular reply button like that in an email, they click post reply. And this is my reply. So you can actually hold a threaded discussion, like think about Yammer, or think about if your company doesn't have Yammer yet. This is a way that you can hold threaded discussions within Outlook and not have to go to SharePoint, but still be able to see the whole conversation in there and have people participate in it. And it'll show, like when new things are in here you haven't read yet, I think it's going to show like dark, like it would, you know, your inbox, or it might, I'm not sure if it's going to show little numbers next to it. Let me see. Does anybody feel that that's going to be useful, or that you'd want to try that? It's been around forever. The conversations are just, discussions are a lot prettier now. In 2013 they made a lot of improvements to it. All right, another functionality we have for all of our lists and libraries is export to Excel and open with access. Of course, if I export it to Excel, it's not necessarily creating a two-way sync or anything like that, but it's just going to let me open it in Excel to be able to, maybe I need to make it pretty to be able to do a presentation or send to somebody or something like that. Let me authenticate. You know what? The Office 365 is actually really confused today because it wants me to change my password. And it asked me this like 5 minutes before I started this presentation, and I told it no thank you. So it's probably mad at me. Yep, okay, let's see. I could very well have not ever opened something from this particular site in Excel before. Yeah, see, that's why it's doing it. Oh my God. I guess I'll have to change my password. I'm not going to be able to do this demo if I don't change it. I was talking to the guys right before I started, and I was like, you think it will let me just wait 1 hour before I have to change it? Good grief. Okay, get that over with now. Of course, then all the other windows that I have open are going to error out and all that stuff. But all right, so exporting to Excel doesn't create any kind of two-way sync, but it does let you just do something else with the data. And actually, Tavis and Joelle have done a couple of other, you know, sort of Excel-centric power hours about cool stuff that you can do. Like Tavis did one on how you actually can make the data live data and make it refresh, which was pretty, you know, pretty technical and entailed, you know, having a data connection in here and setting certain properties and doing some stuff in Central Admin for your secure store, I believe. So again, it's just a one-way export if you do it that way. So I'm not going to say the changes, but I do want to show you the Open with Access thing is actually pretty cool. So I can, I'm going to link to the data. I don't want to just export it. I want to have my live data in Access, and it's actually going to create an Access database for me. We've used this a lot in the past, haven't we, Corey? So we had Corey and I had a very complex business process that we had done, and we had a lot of different task lists and various tables involved, and we needed to figure out maybe something was going wrong with the workflow, and we're looking at some data across different fields, across different tables, and we actually just went ahead and connected various SharePoint lists in here inside of Access and did queries across them. So, and this is live data, so I can say I want my maintenance requests, I want my, I don't know, customer files, calendar, I don't know what some of the stuff is, and just link as many as you want, and then you have them all in here, and you can actually edit data and do queries across a SharePoint list from within Access. Now, this is not something that's going to be, this is not like a database that's going to be easy for you to share. You're not going to necessarily want a whole bunch of end users to have to do this, but this can be used if you want to create like a quick query to figure something out going on between multiple lists, or if you want to even create a report that looks like a pretty report off of a task list or something. And again, the problem with this stuff is it's not going to be, this is not Access services inside of SharePoint. This is just in Access on my computer, but it's just tapping into SharePoint as the back-end data. So that's just like a pretty report that I generated just real quickly in here, and I could say, well, maybe I want to like print it out or take it to a meeting or do something, with it to make it look nice. So, if you're old school Access guru like me, that's kind of fun. All right. Anybody want to add anything about that? I just talk continuously, so. All right. I'm going to close Access. It's fun stuff. But the cool thing about Access, again, is that it's live data as opposed to Excel by default is not going to be live data. All right, let's see, I'm going to go to my next slide here. So I talked about syncing lists to Outlook. I'm going to go ahead and talk about Office integration, and my favorite thing in here is opening and saving directly to and from SharePoint without having to go to SharePoint. So I'm going to show you some really fun tricks in here. So I just opened Word, and I'm creating a new file. This is my cool new file, and I just went ahead and clicked new file and just started typing just from Word on my computer, and that's what most end users do, right? They just open up Word and they just go, or Excel, and they just start creating something. But then I want to put in SharePoint. What I've seen people do, and you might have seen this too, shout it out in the Q&A if you have, is they'll save it to like their hard drive or their desktop or something, and then they'll go to the browser and they'll go find their SharePoint site and they'll go to their library, and then they'll go upload the file, and then they'll have 2 copies of the file, and then they might edit the wrong one later, and then they forget to delete the local one, and then it's just a lot of steps and a lot of clicks. So what I'm going to show you is a couple of different things that we can do. We can actually save it. You can do save as. It will show you all the recent places that you've been in SharePoint. So this is my Office 365 site right here. So this is showing me recent places that I've been in SharePoint, and if I've already been there and if I've already been working on files in there, it will just be there. So that's really nice. So look at that. So I went to my site, and I can just go drill down into whatever library I want to save my file in, and look at this, and I can quickly add, a tag to it. And I talked about tagging, I think, in another presentation. And then I can just save it. I can even drill down into a folder and save it directly into SharePoint like that. Another thing I wanted to show you, though, is how you can, be able to start at the top level like that and have it as a quick place that you can go. Now, so here's like my all site content. I'm actually at the root of my site right now. I can even drill down into subsites and stuff. if I want to put this, see I have all my little favorites over here of places that I like to save stuff. Like I have this Cloud Office. This is actually my our SharePoint site our internal one that I save stuff to all the time. So what I do is I have a bunch of sub-sites for different customers, and I have a bunch of different libraries in there where I might save various files. So I don't necessarily want to put every single customer sub-site in here, or have to drill down like that, or have to have all those listed because they could change a lot. I want to be able to just start at this top level and then just drill down to the sub-site that I need to save my file, and then just open a library and save it. So what I can do is I can add the current location to favorites. Now watch this though, it's going to give me an error. I'm in Word right now. It's going to give me an error. Or not. Where did my error go? It's either just not going to do it, or it's going to give me an error. It's add current location to favorites. So I just go like up. Let me just drill back up here. Drill back up to that level, and I want to save. Yeah, so Mar, you can ask SharePoint questions. Hopefully, yeah, you ask something that's related to what we're doing. What I was going to show you is that it's going to not let you do it, basically. That was my point. It's not going to let you add that location to your favorites from within Word. In Office 2010, it would let you do it. So let me show you my trick. Here's what I do. And I only have to set that up one time, because the next time I want to save a file, then it'll just be there. So it's not something that I have to do all the time. So I'm going to go to my inbox, and I'm going to go get something with an attachment in it. And I'm going to do File Save As in Outlook. Okay, let's see. So here's something that I don't want to get something. Oh, here's just some kind of newsletter. So I can open up an email and do Save All Attachments, do File, Save Attachments, and I get my little Save Attachments prompt like this, and I say OK. But then this is where it's doing, this is my Save As screen that I'm used to seeing. So here's how I can save it to SharePoint and keep that location there, so I can save other things to SharePoint from then on. I need the URL to SharePoint first. So I could just take this top level of my site. I don't even have to be in a library. I mean, I could go down to a library if I wanted to, or a sub-site. I'm just going to copy this top level URL, and I'm going to paste that. Instead of a file name, I'm going to paste that here and click Save. And this screen right here is going to look a little different based on what operating system you're on. It's going to look slightly different if you're on Windows 7 versus Windows XP or something like that. So now it takes me to my SharePoint site, and of course this looks a little funky. It doesn't have sort of the interface that I was expecting it to have, like the other one did. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go find. I could just take this location, just this site, and I'm in this location now. And now that I'm here, I can actually add current location to favorites, and that put this weird URL thing in here. I'm not sure why it did that. It doesn't usually do that, but let me go into policies here. See, that looks like a library. Let me add that to favorites. See, that looks normal. Let me go back up a level, see if it's more friendly. See, okay. I don't know why I went into a library and it went back up, and now it looks like it's supposed to look. So let me add current location to favorites. So now, yeah, it just looks funky. I could just go change the name. All right, so now every time I go to save something, I can just go pick that location that's directly in SharePoint, and I can go save, go drill down into a library and hit save, and I can take things that are in Outlook, attachments, and just save them directly to SharePoint that way without having to go to the browser and go to SharePoint. Does that seem helpful? Did anybody already know that? All right, I'm going to go ahead and click cancel here, but now I have all these nice things that are going to stay here, and they're going to be in there no matter what Office application I'm in. Also, another way that you can, I know I mentioned in here, you can sync a library to a hard drive. So the thing that I just showed you, you don't have to synchronize your library down to your hard drive to do that. You're directly going into SharePoint through Office. Now I could go click the sync option here and be able to just, if I synchronize that whole library down to my hard drive, then it would be available also in my Save As locations. So when I do Save As and I go Browse, then I'm going to have SharePoint, see, here, and then all the individual libraries that I have synchronized are all going to show in this one place. And then I can go pick which one I want to save my file in. The downside to that is that then the entire library, there's a copy of it on my hard drive. And I might not necessarily have the disk space or whatever to be able to do that. Makes sense? All right. So, yeah, I'm glad y'all like that. So, Elia says, cool feature. So, Mar says, can we ask SharePoint questions? And, yep, I'm glad to hear. Cool. All right. So, Greg has a question about quick parts. Yep, I'll get to those in just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and, so saving straight directly to SharePoint is one of my absolute things that I love to tell people about, because it just doesn't seem like a lot of people know it, and it saves so much time, and it really increases user adoption of SharePoint when they know that they can save straight to SharePoint and not have to do all those extra clicks. You just have all your favorite places in there. You can also, if I have favorite places that I go in SharePoint, like customer files or something like that, I'll just go save this to a file location here. I can also go pin my favorite locations inside of that Save As screen. So I can go File, or like Open or Save As, and see I pinned this file. So I can do File Open, and then files that I like to use all the time, I can just pin them and they will show, they will always show here, like that. So that's how you can pin files to always, just files that you work on all the time to just be there. Another thing that you can do from within Word is to start a workflow. So this, and of course I've got my document property. This is the document information panel, and this is my metadata. So any metadata that I have on my library is going to show in the document information panel. If I don't see it, if it's just hidden and I'm looking for it and I don't see it there, and I know that I have some metadata I need to fill out, I can go to my Backstage View and click Properties and choose Show Document Panel, like that. And that's one place where I can go, fill in stuff, and I don't know, like that. And it even shows me my location here. If I have a workflow associated with that library, of course I'll go ahead and just hit Save real quick. I can trigger the workflow from here. I can also do stuff with versions. So look at this. If I've got versioning turned on in my library, it's going to show me a list of versions here. So let me go back, and I'm actually going to close this file. I don't feel like closing Word. Sure, save it. And I'm going to close, and I'm going to go back to SharePoint, and I think I saved it in, oh, where did I put it? Let's see. Customer files. Yep, modified 1 minute ago. All right, so I put it inside of customer files. I can even go to my no folders view that I created to see real quick what, there's my file. So I can make sure I turn on versioning in here. Let's see, is versioning turned on? All right, yep, versioning is turned on. I've got it. It says it's going to keep 500 versions. Okay, so at least versioning's turned on, and then I can go just quickly open that file up. I hate folders so much. All right, and edit it from here. I can even see it directly in here. This is if you have Office 365, you're just going to see it, and if you have Office Web Apps on premises, you're going to see that that little preview of the file. All right. Oh, Carlos says, I found it helpful to have web client services enabled to map SharePoint libraries as a drive. Yeah, you can map SharePoint libraries as a drive, Carlos, but I kind of stopped telling people how to do that over the years because it kind of drives me nuts when people just go directly map all their SharePoint libraries as drives, because then they're just working in it like a file share, and they're not getting any of the benefits of working in SharePoint, like the versioning and the collaboration and any of the stuff that we've been talking about. So I like to try and use the SharePoint interface, and using that Save As screen that actually looks like SharePoint and everything is more of using SharePoint functionality as opposed to just using it like a file share. Does that make sense?
Hey, Laura.
Yes.
There are still some good, valid or business reasons to use that mapping the drive directly via UNC path or something, especially when it comes to mapping like a multifunction device to scan directly to a SharePoint library or some other reasons. But I do that for the average user. That working within the apps that they use every day is the best way, and not to map it directly to like a drive letter or something.
Yep, I agree. So let's go see that Backstage view that I was talking about. So it's got versions in here, so I can say refresh server versions list. Of course, I've only changed it one time, but there's a way that you can visually compare. This is only in Word right here, but you can actually check out the file directly from within Word. You don't have to do it in the library. You can go compare this with other versions of the file, and you can even usually, I'm not sure why it's not on here. Let's see. Share screen. Usually the workflows show right there on the Save As screen. On the see, the workflows usually show right here. If you have workflow, oh, I don't have a workflow on that particular library. I put it on a different library. So let me go open that a file in that other library, because I was like, I was sure that I put a workflow on here before I did the demo. This is the library called Shared Documents that I did put a workflow on, so I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like. I'll go edit that file. So now it's opening another file. Let's see. Yeah, I know, Anne says, now let's write up the instructions for users so they understand how to do this themselves. I know, that's why I love to show like the admin perspective and how to do that like through group policy and stuff, so that end users don't have to know all that crap. But at least if you have no control over group policy and you just want to show people how to quickly do it themselves, then at least you know you have an option, right? Yeah. So Mar, as a SharePoint developer, I think these features are too complicated to the client. He should be SharePoint trained to know what he's doing. I know, you don't want to have a PhD in SharePoint to do a lot of this stuff, right? You just want it to be obvious, but it's not. And so since it's not, and since, you know, if your company you work for has not implemented things like that via group policy for you, then at least there's something that you can, you know, again, this one's geared towards end users. At least there's something end users can do. And Microsoft is improving OneDrive for Business, and they say they are improving and adding functionality and even group policy functionality as we speak, but they just haven't done it yet. So this is what you can do in the meantime, or this is what you can do if you have older versions that you're dealing with. Elias says, if you email the Word doc to someone outside your org, will they still see the metadata? Yes, they will. They will. And that's actually, Elia, something that I've done. You know, if we don't have access to, like, our customers don't have access to our SharePoint environment, it's just on our intranet, and I want them to be able to fill out things that are metadata and like populate a form, like I'll put quick parts in a Word document and it's all metadata, and email it to the customer, and when the customer emails me the document back filled in, and I drop it in the document library, all the metadata and columns get populated. So that's actually kind of nice that it does still work when when someone outside the org gets the document, because then SharePoint will recognize all that column metadata when you stick it back in SharePoint. All right, so here's a document that is in a library that does have, it's got multiple versions for this file, and there is a workflow on this library. Sometimes it takes it a minute to, not sure why, sometimes it takes it a minute to pop up down here. Maybe I'll have to come back to that. It's kind of frustrating. Maybe it's on the share. Oh, yep, there it is. I knew it. It's on the share screen. All right, so if you want to start a workflow and you don't want to have to go to SharePoint, this library, I've already put a workflow on the library. So I just went ahead and just stuck a generic 2010 approval workflow on this library. But now an end user can go click Start Workflow from within the document and go ahead and just fill it in. Who does it need to assign to and stuff like that, and click Start, and then the workflow is going to start. I did also, speaking of Office integration, I did another Power Hour about the Collect Signatures workflow, which is also integrated between SharePoint and Word, and it lets you use the little Insert tab to insert signature boxes, which integrate with the out-of-the-box Collect Signature workflow in SharePoint. Yeah, and then another thing in Word is the version compare. So I'll show you that in a second too. I'll go ahead and wait for the stupid workflow to start. It's Office 365, so I don't know how long it's going to take. Let's see. Also, Greg says, when I get to quick parts, is there any way to hide quick parts with no data? It shows a placeholder if there's nothing in that field. Greg, I believe that there is. I have a customer recently that I showed them how to use quick parts, and they took it to a whole other level, and they did all kinds of cool stuff. Let me just finish now that the workflow finished starting, and I'll address that in a second. So I can go File, and I can choose Manage Versions here, and I can say Compare, or I can go to the Review List and choose Compare, and choose compare this version to a specific other version if I want to. And when I click Compare, again, this is only for Word, not Excel or anything else. It might have it in PowerPoint, actually. I think it does. So you can see what things other people change in your slides. All right, so it shows you Compared Document, where it's going to highlight things that got changed. And it says I have 2 revisions. So I made comments in here, basically. So those are the only things that have changed in here were just the comments that I made. You can actually do comments within the Office app and also within Office web apps too. You can use the little comment pane to be able to see, it's called the reviewing pane in here, to be able to just make comments on stuff. Okay, we did a Power Hour on quick parts, and quick parts are the thing where you can, if you have metadata on your library. So let me go close this. File, don't save my results. If you have metadata in your library, quick parts lets you go Insert, and you're going to choose quick parts. I think because my resolution, here it is, my resolution is so wonky on here, it's got it, you can't tell what it says. But so you can put quick parts in here. So what he's asking is, can I hide a quick part if it doesn't have any date in it? All right, so there you can, but I just personally have never done it. So let me kind of guide you towards how you possibly do this. There are actually codes that you can do in here. So there's like a view setting. Oh my gosh, there's a view setting somewhere in the Word, like in the Word options in the advanced settings, that lets you switch this over to be able to see like the code behind it, the code behind these little fields that you add. And I have a customer that actually typed if statements inside of here. So I recommend going, go Bing it and go figure that out. But there is a way to do it. I just don't know the syntax or know how they did it. But yeah, I was super impressed. I just showed them that quick parts exist, and the next time I met with them, they had done like all this super fancy stuff with them. But it's somewhere like in the options in your like advanced options or something like that. To show hidden text or code or something like that. Sorry. Sorry, I don't know the details about that, but yeah, you can do it. It's just I don't know how to do it. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to close Word. Sure, save it. Okay, close that. Now let's get to some other slides here. Good grief, stop. Alrighty. So I showed you workflows and I mentioned quick parts. And it's so cool that you can just do all this stuff straight from within Office and not have to remember where your library is or go to the browser. All right, something else. All right, quick parts, just a quick overview. You can create a content type. You don't have to have a content type, but you can have all your metadata exist in your library or in your content type, and then when you go to the Insert tab in Word, you can choose document property, and that's how you can insert those fields directly in your Word documents. Yeah. Live co-authoring is another integration point with SharePoint, is that as long as you don't have check-in turned on, or don't have a file checked out, and don't have the option on your library where you're forcing checkout, and then just by default, as long as people have at least Office 2010 and up, you'll see this little save and refresh button, and you'll be able to see changes other people are making. Just recently, in the past couple of months, Microsoft announced that they improved live co-authoring so that you don't have to click the refresh button, and you're just going to see changes just automatically as they happen in the document when you're collaborating with someone. So that's very cool. Oh, Greg says Alt F9 to see that. I've tried the statements. It doesn't work for me. Oh, sorry. I know that they had done it, though. I just don't know how they did it. Okay, so let me close out a couple of those questions. All right. Live co-authoring is pretty cool. It just works. Live co-authoring, it doesn't work in the Excel client software, but it works in the Excel, like when you're editing it online. And PowerPoint works in both, I believe. All right, I'm not going to demo that. Got like 13 minutes left. Let's see what else we got here. Backstage View, this is, again, an old screenshot from 2010. Probably a lot of people are still on Office 2010. Oh, Russell Clark. Hey, Russell. He's one of our coworkers. Russell, I'm gonna have you come do a power hour one of these days. He says you can use Control F9 to insert, then create an if statement. Yeah, if you have any links, though, Russell, maybe you can send it to. IM it to Corey Emmons here, and maybe he can put it in the chat window. I don't have my IM client turned on right now, but then maybe I'll be able to put it in the Q&A if you have a link, like to a reference that says how to do some of that stuff. All right, so yeah, the Backstage View has various things that you can do related to SharePoint. Well, that was like an RTM version of 2010 that screenshot was from. All right, connect to Outlook, create search folders, view RSS feeds, overlay Outlook calendars in SharePoint. I showed you how to do that. You can manage your alerts directly from Outlook. Did you know this? You can manage all of your SharePoint alerts. If you're in Outlook, whatever version of Outlook you're in, if you click Rules and choose Manage Rules and Alerts, you'll get Rules and Alerts here, and you go to the Alerts, Manage Alerts tab. And this actually has every single alert that I've created in any SharePoint environment that I'm in. So a couple of these it can't connect to because I'm not, on the VPN, or the site doesn't exist anymore or something like that. But I can actually see every single alert in this one place, and I can go manage them directly from here. So I can go, create a new alert, go to properties of one particular alert, I can delete it, etc. And be able to at least see, because sometimes you'll get a lot of emails and you don't know why you keep getting them or where they're coming from. That's one place where you can go to see them. Pretty cool. Anything else cool you can do in Outlook?
Those Outlook alerts are really helpful when people, remember that they followed something or they found it on a site and they can't remember what the site actually was, and maybe they haven't gotten an alert email in a while. They can go directly into Outlook, look at the alerts they have, and that'll sometimes lead them back to the site. They'll remember finding something, but not where they found it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, nice.
to jump back to the if statements really quick, I put that link from Russell in the chat window
Oh,
for
cool.
us. What he did say was that it doesn't specifically show an if statement to hide, but he is pretty sure it must be possible. So it's a good starting point at any rate.
Like if it doesn't have a value, then like put air quotes with nothing in it or something like that. Yeah, maybe that's.
Where he says maybe just changing the formatting to white text if the value is blank.
Then you'd still have a big empty space. All right, so I went ahead and conditional formatting in Word 2010 tables. Oh, okay, that's where you got that. I'll copy that and go put it in our little Q&A here. I mean our showcase over here. Thanks, Russell. That's awesome. All right, show item. Okay, it's actually a response to a forum question. Cool. All right, what else? What other slides do I have here? These are all things that you can connect to Outlook and edit from both places. Again, it's really useful for printing and having threaded discussions. You can do libraries. Again, you know, Office, I mean, I keep calling it SkyDrive, or I don't know what to call it. OneDrive for Business is really the sort of best practice way that you're supposed to sync document libraries, but you can sync document libraries and folders. See, connect to Outlook. So I can take a library and click connect to Outlook, and I can take a folder and click connect to Outlook, and then that is actually going to put that folder directly in Outlook. And the problem with this, though, is that it's very clunky. Like, it's very clunky as far as, you know, how it syncs and how often it syncs, and I just don't think it's the most reliable thing. But I've had situations in the past where I just needed to quickly be able to. I went ahead and synced this one folder, and it's only, you know, it's got one file in it. Well, you know, I was just going on a trip, and I just quickly wanted a set of files out of SharePoint to just have them on my hard drive to work on them, and I synced that folder to Outlook. And so right now you can't sync a folder specifically with OneDrive for Business. You can sync it to Outlook. So just something to note, but whatever you sync, it's going to pull that whole thing down to your hard drive, and it's going to put it in your PST file in Outlook if you do that. Blah, blah, blah. Access, I kind of showed you Access already. Visio. There is, let's see, you can view SharePoint Designer workflows as diagrams, so that's integration between SharePoint Designer and Office. You do have a Visio web part that lets you show Visio diagrams in as a web part on a page if you've uploaded them to SharePoint. I think we did either 1 or 2 whole other Power Hours. I went ahead and shared those links in our showcase here. Power Hours about Visio web parts and all the cool things that you can do with connecting them. You can connect the data in a list directly to your diagram and connect the web parts to each other. It's really neat. So there's a pretty good bit that you can do with that. And then there's also, of course, Excel services. I didn't mention Excel services in here in this presentation because we have multiple other Power Hours that Joelle and Tavis have done on amazing, magical, awesome things that you can do with Excel services using the web part, or, you know, I did one having to do with connecting to the Excel Web Access web part, and Tavis did one with data, and Joelle did one with the API, right? I forgot what it was called. Anyway, she showed you all kinds of cool strings that you can use to be able to connect directly to the web service and do neat stuff with it. That sounds really technical, right? Cool stuff and neat stuff. I don't remember what it was, though, off the top of my head. Slide libraries. There used to be slide libraries. Those actually don't exist anymore in 2013. I need to remove that from my slide. But slide libraries don't exist anymore. That was in SharePoint 2010, where you had a bunch of individual slides in a library, and you can put checkboxes next to them to maybe combine them into a whole new slide deck or something like that. You can still go into PowerPoint and broadcast your slideshow. Has anybody ever done this? Share. Yeah. If you go to the Share tab in Outlook, in PowerPoint, I can choose, I've got Post to Social Networks. I can post my, wow, cool. I can post my presentation to a social network. I can present online. So I can actually use this public presentation service if I want to. And I can choose Present Online. And I'm going to see if I can just do this real quick in the next 5 minutes and show y'all what it looks like since we're live, right? Why not? So you just choose Present Online. And now I know in 2010 there was a thing that I wrote about in the book that was like an internal broadcast service that you could create inside of your own farm. I don't know if that exists anymore in SharePoint 2013, that PowerPoint broadcast service. So let's see, I'll go ahead and put this in. Okay, so I put this in the showcase. It says Microsoft PowerPoint Online, and I just click Start Presentation. So now what I'm showing in this slide should be showing live for you guys if you clicked on that link. So y'all just kind of see if you can try it and verify that you got in or whatever. Let's see. Oh, Carlos says Windows 10 allows syncing at the folder level. Nice to know. So that's with SharePoint libraries. Cool. Carlos says Microsoft released an update. Here's a 64-bit version that greatly improves syncing libraries. Okay. Let me see if I can grab that from Carlos. You are so helpful, Carlos. Copy. So I'm going to go to it and then I'll copy it. Did anybody successfully see my presentation using the link I shared? I'll go ahead and share Carlos's link too. All right. So it says update for Microsoft Office 2013. All right, and then what other questions did we have in here? Okay, Greg says he tried that article having to do with the quick parts. Did it in 2010, haven't tried it with 2013. Oh, interesting. That'd be weird if it worked in 2010 and not 2013. Let's see, do I have any more slides? So let's see, I'll mention, yeah, that's the last slide. I'm going to mention a few of these. So you can broadcast your slideshow. So that's going to be if you want people to just go to a web link, just a public web link, and see the slides that you're presenting. I've never really seen a purpose behind doing this, except that maybe if you were just on a conference call. See, I usually use GoToMeeting. If I'm, in a meeting with a customer or something and I need to show them a presentation, I just share my screen and talk through it. So I guess maybe if you were on a conference call and you didn't have some kind of service that allows you to share your desktop and you wanted to just email a link to everybody and them to be able to hear your voice and talk through it, something like that. So that's one way you can do it. Awesome. Stacy says she got into my PowerPoint. So I'm going to actually go backwards. I'll go back to the, some other slides in here and let's see. Go back to the beginning. So I stopped it and started it again. So I've actually got a tab I'll show y'all in here. It says Present Online. It's a Present Online tab. And it says from the beginning or from current slide. And it says, whether I want to use Presenter View or not, which I like Presenter View. Share meeting notes. Send invitations will just pop up an email for me to send this link to people. But I can actually share the notes. So I can open up like my OneDrive, and I can open up OneNote in my OneDrive and be presenting this thing to people and actually have them all making notes in the OneNote from my OneDrive together while I'm doing the presentation. So that's pretty cool, right? Does anybody think that they use that? I better stop, huh? So let's see, I can't
I
find
don't use the share meeting notes option, but the integration that OneNote has with SharePoint, I use quite a bit, and I've been encouraging Rackers internally, that and letting them know, like, you have your client application for OneNote, but you can sync that to your personal My Site. I do that with several notebooks, both personal ones and then work-related ones, to the appropriate OneDrive. And that's something that people seem to forget. Like, they're just used to using the OneNote app, and they kind of forget that it can sync with SharePoint and automatically have that available to share with other people without having to email it around.
Yeah, nice. And another one of the options that it gave when I was choosing to present online, now I'm going to click End Online Presentation, was whether I wanted to allow people to be able to download the presentation. So I clicked No in this case because this is a piece of crap presentation and it's got a bunch of stuff in it that's outdated. I don't want anybody having that. But you could allow them to download it too. So very cool. Let's see, any last questions? So I'm glad y'all, at least Stacy was able to get in and look at my PowerPoint. Ann says the one on how to save files directly from Word is going to save me lots of time with some users. I can just link Skype with them and set up the save location for them. Yeah, there you go. So I was hoping that, to me, that would be the biggest takeaway and the most useful thing that would apply to the most end users out of all these things. But I'm glad you guys enjoyed that. Next week, we're not having Power Hour. It's Thanksgiving week here in the United States, and we are all going to be on vacation. So we'll pick up the week after that, and we will see you all then. So thanks for joining. I think Corey's going to do one pretty soon, maybe. So that'll be fun. We'll see everybody next time.